So I actually had thought of a kind of some movie news for like a little cold open because
Yeah.
I watched a couple different. Well, I consumed through various means. I watched like a video on it and then like read some articles on it about how abysmal the weekend box office was for like Memorial Day weekend, which shared the two big releases for this year for reference was the Garfield movie and Furiosa, um, which both
They
like
could.
didn't do well, just kind of continuing a trend of not great for
You mean
theaters.
you didn't dress up to go see Gar Furiosa, the latest hit
Oh,
since
I hadn't heard that one.
Barbenheimer?
That's pretty good. I had not heard that one.
Dude, like, oh, can you imagine like a war boy? Like Odie's a war pup. Garfield's like,
Yeah.
what a beautiful day. It's not Monday, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh
But apparently he's a big stinker, huh?
that yeah. Um and like it hasn't I mean, the theaters have just kind of generally been in a slump since COVID. And the main thing that I watched was from Dan Merle, who's a guy that I follow. He does a lot of like movie analysis. He does like a weekly thing called, I think it's just called Charts with Dan, where
Mm.
he just kind of breaks down like in pretty minute detail like the weekend box office, like how it compares to like other weekends. He adjusts things for like inflation, and it's nice because like I usually work at the theater like Monday nights, so and they come out on Mondays, so I'm like, oh, this is my good, like I'm doing work research, right? I can do this at work, and it's kind of informing me about how it's going. Um, but yeah, he released a video a few days ago, just kind of breaking down that, and then like the different kind of issues that theaters are facing. Um,
Yeah,
and it's
literally,
a
like
bummer.
as we were having dinner tonight, Red Letter Media also dropped a video
Oh,
today
did they really?
about like more so it's kind of like a pseudo Mr. Plinkett review type video, but it's like about what's going on with theaters, like how do
Okay.
we solve this problem with like no one, it's like everything gets just dropped immediately to streaming like 2 weeks later, so there's not really an incentive to go to the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is like a little bit of a foreshadow for post chat, but I saw a movie like last weekend and didn't have a great theater going experience. People are not
Mm.
good in theaters these
They're
days, and I think
really
it
not.
depends.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you see. Like I said for the show, I went to go see The Holdovers in theaters back in like January, and the entire crowd was all like late 40, early 50 plus people. Super respectful screening. Awesome screening. Everyone was very nice. But it's like you hit a certain age demographic, and I don't mean to do generational
I
warfare, but
know.
like
Yeah.
it's just like there were like these teenage girls that would like I would watch them like walk in and out of the theater and their phones were in their hands, and it's like you're going out to like text somebody or something. Like just fidgety, can't sit still for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So it's just not a good feeling for movie going.
That's one of the things, because that was the thing that he brought up as like one of the points is like theater etiquette has just kind of gone down the drain or whatever. That was one of the things that like in a way like it's a bummer, but it did make me feel a little bit better because like when I started working at the theater, I thought I was just like maybe I'm because I personally am not very confrontational. Even in those situations, I have had to do it before, but I hate like having to like go into the
It's so
theater and be like,
uncomfortable.
you guys need to like, people like putting their feet up on the seats. Even though like I hate that. I hate when people do that stuff or like have their phones out in the theater, but I still hate having to be the person to do it. So, like hearing that that's like just an issue everywhere, I'm like, okay, cool. So it's not just me being a scaredy cat at my own theater. uh but yeah, everything else is like it's like yeah, the what is it called, like premium on demand, like coming like a few weeks later. The price, it's so many things, and it's a bummer when like I feel like I have noticed, and this maybe could just be something again that I just pay more attention to since working at a theater, that like there just seems to be so many more so than usual, like re-release anniversary screenings here. Here's the, like you saw like Godzilla, like it's, that's like an anniversary screening for Godzilla.
Yeah.
Or like the next movie that I have tickets to see in theaters is we're going to see Fellowship of the Ring at Celebration next weekend. So
Right. I just saw that Celebration showing Run Lola Run.
I saw
which
that
I think
too.
is like
Yep.
a 25th anniversary. Which
Probably,
I would
yeah.
go see that. That'd be a cool screening.
That would be pretty fun. Yeah. It's just I just don't think a lot of new movies are like doing it for people anymore. It's a bummer because
I have so many thoughts on this, but I'm gonna keep myself constrained. The movie selection just sucks. Let's just put
Yeah.
it frankly, it's pretty bad. I don't know if the strikes have affected what's being released, but I mean this weekend was awful. I don't know that this weekend's supposed to be any good, but and
there wasn't
then, yeah,
anything new this week. It was
there's
all
nothing.
yeah. I don't think there was a single
Nothing.
new wide release movie this weekend.
I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering. It feels like my childhood, my teenage years, every single week something was coming out that was interesting or had a named star in it.
Mm-hmm.
Every week from May to August or whatever. So I think though that the death of movie theaters, they won't die, but
Right.
we're sort of long overdue for it, just because this streaming, and I have been streaming since 1999. I've been pirating movies. No, I don't. I only did it for 1 year. Decided to be ethical, but I was pirating movies in my dorm in '99. So here we are, 25 years later. Like, why would I go to the theater when it's more expensive and it's
that too,
and everything else? So
we went to go see about a month ago. We went to go see like Civil War in the IMAX, and I hadn't paid for like an IMAX screening in probably a decade. I think the last thing I saw in IMAX was like Pacific Rim in like 2013, and 2 tickets for an IMAX screening plus like a popcorn and a drink was like $53.
Oh, okay. I was going a little over.
really,
because it's like $20 per IMAX ticket.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know that that's like it depends on where you are. Like obviously in like California or New York City, East Coast, like they're kind of the coastal cities, the bigger metropolitan areas. It's going to be like a difference in price. But like I remember as a kid, like going to the movies with it'd be like my brother, my sister, myself, my mom, and my dad, and we would all get our own individual like popcorns and drinks. And I remember as a kid, it would total out to be like $40. And I remember as a kid being like, "Oh, that's so expensive. That's so expensive."
Right.
And now it's like $40 is like you both get a ticket and then like you both get your own individual popcorn and drink. Because like right now, my girlfriend and I, we just split a popcorn and drink. We only get one because it's like it's insane to get 2 because it's just it's ridiculous. So it's just like I think that's also keeping people away from theaters because it's like I can, it's like you can rent it for $3.99 if it's an older movie, or you could like rent it once for like $20, but that's like it's $20 for the whole family.
Right, yeah.
If you don't have to like it's not individualized,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you got like a whole family, it's like a no-brainer. Just get some microwave popcorn or,
Yeah.
Even some like stovetop stuff and and some pop and it's way cheaper and you don't have to worry about other people.
Give me a 2-liter of Faygo and I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, I've read about micro theaters. I don't know if you guys have those in your area. They're not even close to me. Just theaters that seat like 50 people.
Okay.
Specialty theaters that I assume they're playing older fare too, or maybe mostly, but maybe, and I think those are catered to people with better taste, let's say, so that you don't get the fidgety crowd.
Sure.
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
those are just in big cities, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean the theater that at least TJ and I have been to a few times. I go to more frequently just because like I live in the same town. But I would say the Wealthy holds maybe
200?
what would you say? 200 maybe,
And
but that's where I saw Godzilla, the 1954 one. They're actually, as of this recording, on Tuesday, and I think I'm gonna go to this. They're showing Hundreds of Beavers,
oh
Mm.
yeah,
which I've seen everyone on Letterboxd like rave about that movie, and I don't think it's coming to any of the main theaters around here. So it's like that's like the only way to see it. I
Yeah.
think is going to be going to this screening. So
Mm.
like yeah, I mean you know I'm lucky that I have at least that theater that'll do like anniversary shows and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of slim pickings otherwise.
It's kind of fun. Technically, I'd have to check to see what the number is exactly, but I think technically the theater I works at has a
Would
micro
be.
theater, but that's not like on purpose. It's just because
Yeah.
it's a small. But we only have 4 screens, and one of them is like maybe
It's tiny.
it's 60 70 seats tops, like if that. So that could classify. And like we thought, like me and the other managers have said, like it would be so cool if our corporate would like let us kind of choose like specialty screenings in that little one, and then keep the bigger movies for like the bigger theaters. It'd be so cool. And I think it would, as long as you get the word out, I think you'd get people to come for those, where we could just kind of like rotate, like every week let's do, I don't know. I'm just like from a hat. Like, we show Back to the Future one week. I don't know. People like that. People would come to see
Yeah.
that, right? Then we'd show.
It doesn't even have to be like weirdo black and white avant-garde
Exactly,
stuff.
yeah.
It can be like
Star
yeah,
Wars,
yeah.
like the old Star Wars
Mhm.
movies, or I don't know, Toy Story. Like the original
Yeah.
Toy Story. Just random stuff like that. And then, yeah, maybe on like Tuesday night we can show Ikiru or something like that.
Oh, that'd be so cool though.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. I'll kind of brag a little bit. I guess brag. I don't know. The best theater experience I had recently was after work, a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I was just kind of in the mood. I was like, I kind of wanted to see The Fall Guy in theaters, but I couldn't really just find a time to see it when it was playing. So what I did is, after my shift, I was closing. I was the only one there. The other closers had left. So I bought myself like 2 boxes of candy, some popcorn, and then I got some popcorn and pop, and I sat in like the second row and watched The Fall Guy at midnight. And it was like
Man.
it's like a 6 out of 10 movie. But it was the best experience I have had watching like a 6 out of 10 movie in a while. It was so much fun, just like treating myself like that. Not having to worry about anybody. It was awesome. Welcome back to There Will Be Duds, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 152, and I am your co-host, TJ, and with me, as always,
I am Nick, and back with us for another week.
Another time
is Dr. Josh Matthews from Learning About Movies on YouTube. Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
Hey, thanks. It's always fun, and I picked the movie this week, so you can get mad at me or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know.
You can blame me.
I don't know. We'll see.
We do random drawings most of the time, but I would say like 70-80% of them are my movies. And I think just based on the whole history of the show, I'm not in any position to get mad at people for their weird movie suggestions based on some of the shit I've made people watch. But anyways, yes, he did. Finally, after this is we figured like your 5th or 6th time, and this is the first time that you've actually done a true guest recommendation.
Well, yeah, maybe I should just say, because the last episode, Francis Ford Coppola came up so often.
Right.
It is.
Been on my mind. You primed me, and so then I picked this.
I like that. Yeah. No.
This oddball one, just so we could talk about Coppola once again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that movie is One from the Heart, directed by Francis Coppola, as he is credited in the movie, from 1981. It is about a couple live in Las Vegas. They have a fight. They kind of have a falling out, and then they each have their own little night on the town, meet some new love interests, and pine for each other throughout. It's a very it's kind of a musical, kind of a romance drama sort of thing. And yeah, so something I like to ask the guests when they bring stuff in, and I haven't actually got to really ask you this yet, but why'd you pick this movie? I know you said that it was because we brought him up last time. I think maybe you're probably doing like a video on this. I know you gave me a list of movies that you were doing for videos future. I don't know if you got something for this
besides Coppola coming up in the last episode, this movie is strange in every way. I think whether you love it or hate it or in between, you think about its influence and then its production history and what the director did before this. If you watch this movie and think he made Apocalypse Now right before this movie, and you watch this movie, that's such a wild stylistic wild content change. It's seemingly, and so I thought I would amuse you by making you watch. And plus, this has just got released on 4K. And I don't know if you saw it in that version. There's actually 3 different versions of this movie.
Oh,
but in the 4K release was, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I
really
rented it on Apple, and it was One from the Heart reprise, which I believe, I looked it up, I believe that is the 4K scan. I don't have a 4K TV or Apple TV streaming thing, but I think I did watch the newer one that got released a couple weeks ago.
Is there a different is it just resolution restoration or whatever, or is there a different cut, different lengths, different scenes, is it?
Oh yeah, the 4K has, I've not actually watched the 4K version, but it has the reprise, which is Coppola's. Is it his cut of his cut? I don't There's a theatrical release on the 4K release, and it's the Blu-ray disc is the theatrical, and then what I knew was the DVD version, which was a director's cut, made 10, 20 years ago.
Okay.
And that's what we had, and it looked not great, but then the Blu-ray, which I have, looks quite good, and I have not seen the reprise to tell you.
The one I watched last night was pretty good. It looked good to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one I watched. I know it was 98 minutes long, so if that says anything.
It'd be very funny if we all watched the 3 different versions. We all have very different responses. I'm I thought it was great.
I think mine looked decent though, so I probably watched the Blu-ray version.
Yeah.
But it didn't. I don't think mine said reprise or anything like that, so I'm not totally sure. But it did look nice, and the I don't know where we want to start with it, but that's definitely my favorite part of the experience is the all the technical stuff, the lighting, coloring, some of the the lighting of the movie, but also the color of the neon lights and stuff like that. So the lights and the lighting.
I miss movies that do opening credit sequences that use stuff in the movie instead of just text on a screen. The opening sequence I think was 4 or 5 minutes long, and it was all of the different Las Vegas casinos and landmarks, but it was starring Frederick Forrest, and every single Las Vegas landmark thing was stylized to fit production credits and all that kind of stuff. And I do miss that in movies. I'm trying to think of other examples, this is a wildly different example, Napoleon Dynamite, all of the credit sequences, his name's written in ketchup on a tray in a cafeteria. It sets the tone of the movie, and I would not be surprised if you were to talk to Damien Chazelle and ask him what his influences for La La Land were, because this seems like a movie that definitely inspired that movie and probably a lot of other ones, just in terms of just the story and also the look, because this had I felt sometimes I was in a black box theater, Like it felt very theatrical. Like we were on like sets, and there were some really really cool shots where they'd have Terry Garr in the front having a scene, and then the lights would come up behind her, and you'd see Hank having another scene, like kind of like superimposed, but it looks like they're on the same stage. Stuff like that I thought was very neat. Just like the whole look of this movie like that.
I think there was one instance where that I thought was really cool, where they actually were like in the same location. They actually like filmed like I think it's Hank, and there's like a wall, like this wallpaper wall behind him, and he's talking to I think Harry Dean Stanton, and then lights go down on them and lights come up behind them, and then you see through the wall and it's Terry Garr talking to Lainey Kazan, and that was cool. I liked all that kind of stuff when it when it popped up. But that was my favorite instance, because that was like they like actually there or whatever. Whereas I think most of the other ones were just like superimposed or whatever, which is still cool. I like the you see like the close-ups of their faces, and they're like they turn towards each other or whatever, that kind of stuff. It was neat. The other it kind of reminded me of like a proto or like muted what's the like a more modest Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's like a lot of that like super stylized like theatrical stuff that he was kind of like doing in this to like hone for that like 10 years later. Because he goes fucking crazy with that movie, like all the different like camera tricks and stuff that he does in
like
Dracula.
You'll just see like someone's face, just a close up on someone's face, and then you'll see like a train going by in the background, and it's like this bright red. Like I like that this movie equal parts was like super neon colored Las Vegas, and then sometimes I thought I was in like a Giallo film. Like when they're at their apartment and it's just like completely red and like completely green. It had this like very otherworldly feel to it. I was like, damn, this is like Suspiria almost.
Yeah.
But it's just like their domestic life.
Yeah.
Well, then you said La La Land, and I wonder how many people liking that movie would like this movie. Because I think time may have been kind of this movie in some ways, and maybe because directors have paid attention to it, not necessarily audiences. And now the directors made movies based on this movie, or some of the stylizations of this movie. Now we're more used to what this is doing. Because Blade Runner 2049 is like, there it is. There's do you remember this shot? The shot of Frederick Forrest, and then the big image of Natasha Kinski. Well, that's quoted exactly in 2049.
Yeah.
Like, he did exactly the same thing.
100%. Yeah.
I saw that scene and I was like, I can fix that.
Yeah, I think there's several others. So I think we're used to this, whatever this is doing, a little bit more, maybe, or to glory in the aesthetics of it, which I think if it came out today, probably it would not have gotten the reaction it got in 1981 or whenever. Like totally trashed.
From what I read, this like bankrupted Francis Ford Coppola. Like apparently, and it's very funny and ironic that this is the case. That like Apocalypse Now is this war epic, like probably other than I guess The Godfather, like his most known movie, and that movie was fraught with like production problems. Like did they shoot it in Vietnam? Did they shoot it on location?
It's shot on location somewhere. I don't.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they actually, but it's like I know they had like there's like trouble with the weather, like this and that.
And,
Marlon Brando's doing Marlon Brando shit probably. And so he has this huge troubled production. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a modest little romantic comedy musical, and then this one also just balloons out in budget. And he wants to do the entire thing on a soundstage. And like I was reading, I think some of the trivia for the airport scene. Okay. It's like a scale model of like an actual airport, and he got like the nose of an airplane it was like an airplane that had crashed or was not in service anymore. So he had like a real life giant airplane like front compartment that he got for this movie to like put it in their soundstage.
Wow.
So it's just like it's insane that this is the movie that like bankrupts him and not Apocalypse Now. This like movie that I mean got trashed when it came out. Like a lot of people, and it's like I'm trying to think of like why, like I can see why it got trashed, but it's like, you know, audience goers being like, oh cool, yeah, Apocalypse Now, I dig it, cool movie. Let's see what this guy's got next, and just I can only imagine what it would have been like as a theater goer, and then this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like I mean, not quite, but like going from Whiplash to La La Land. This is a pretty wild change too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, no,
Well,
no, go ahead.
well, then the other movie, I don't think it's directly quoted, but just the feel of this fake American Toyland excessive world is the Barbie movie from last year.
Sure,
which
yeah.
I think they're in the car several times, and it kind of looks like a little to me the stuff in the Barbie car going from one place to the other. I feel that movie is here too, but then again, I don't know if you know the French movie from I think the '60s, Umbrellas of Cherbourg,
Mm-hmm.
the one where they're singing all the way through. You know that one, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that feeds into this movie, which then feeds in the Barbie movie, but the sort of all the Cherbourg influence is kind of in both.
Yeah.
And then you see Harry Dean Stanton and Natasha Kinski, and you're like, oh, Paris, Texas.
Yep. Yeah.
3 years later, there they are again.
Yeah, when Frederick Forrest kind of leaves her and Harry Dean Stanton's there, I was like, oh, that's how Travis meets Jane before he loses his memory.
I love that I feel like they try to make Harry Dean Stanton not seem like he's 20 years older than everybody else in this movie, and they give him this like curly ginger wig.
Yeah.
And it's just like I don't think I've ever seen Harry Dean Stanton not look like he was in his mid 50s, like in every performance of his I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like I love the guy, but I'm like, this wig,
yeah.
it's like, you know, that thing where like they try to put like a 30-year-old actor in the role of like a high school student.
Yeah.
And it's just like terribly obvious that it's like this is like a almost like a middle-aged man. That's kind of how I felt. Like I love Harry Dean Stanton, but as soon as he walks on the screen with his wig, I'm like, oh my god, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I remember checking when we did Paris, Texas, which was 84, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He was like 57 or 58 in that. So, yeah, he's mid 50s at least in this movie. Just wild that he was like already that old and he was still doing movies like up to like a few years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. He was like a always welcome. And that guy, I love that guy.
So we have talked a lot about the technical aspects of it, but I think the thing that sort of doesn't necessarily work for me is the story and the central romance between the two characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you guys feel about him, but I think Hank sucks shit, and I think he's a bad guy. And I was not triumphantly fist pumping at the end when she abandons Ray, who is like a charisma machine.
I know.
She abandons him to go back to their shitty little apartment. And I'm like, no!
Yeah.
No, you should have gone with Ray. Hank has not redeemed himself at all throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed his ways. Like after the movie ended, I was like, okay, it's supposed to be this happily ever after moment, but it's like I know that like as soon as like the camera stopped rolling, they're gonna go through this cycle again and again and again until she finally leaves or like he kills her or something. Because it's just like there's no other course if they keep like staying together.
Yeah, that was like the latter like chunk of my notes where I went, Terry Garr is very charming, but I don't care for these characters or relationships. Main guy kind of sucks. Post-nut possessiveness. Raul Julia better. Chasing girl to the airport, a la Little Italy.
I noticed that.
And then my last note was she took him back. Like, yeah. So I also had some issues with where it goes. Like it was weird that like he bangs Natasha Kinski and then he's like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna let her do this. And then he like literally like just like pulls her out of bed like naked and like drives her back to the house and everything. It was weird. And like I think the movie tries to kind of lighten it, and maybe you're not like, I don't think the movie, I don't know how to put it. Like I was flip-flopping on like how to feel about him, because it does insert those moments of comedy, like when he's like on the roof of the hotel or whatever that they're in. You know, he like gets electrocuted and they do like bzzz, like
his
like
hair's
really comical
up.
like yeah. And then he like the wire like falls on him and stuff. So it's like it's trying to like make it more light, because I think otherwise if you don't have that, he just seems like an insane like like an insane person.
He's very like possessive and just crazy.
Yeah. And then I really liked Raul Julia's character. He is a charming actor. And I liked him and Terry Garr's scenes together. And not even that like I thought like, you know, they met that day, and Frederick Forrest and Natasha Kinski met that same day too. So I don't think it's like, oh, those are actually true love too, right? Like they're just flings, you know. Who knows if she would have, you know, really fallen in love with him too, but it was just weirdly handled, I guess. And I felt like I would have been happier if I would have felt better about the ending if it was more gray. Like not even if she said just outright no or outright yes, if it was just more kind of like a in between, like you don't know what's going to happen next. I think that would have been kind of an interesting way to take it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I feel similar.
I feel like he was going for like a 1950s ending. He's like it's a retro movie, trying to revive a musical. I didn't look up musicals at this time, but I remember Xanadu is out there, and the Wiz, and there's a couple attempts to do this, but it doesn't really work, and no one cares anymore about musicals. So he's trying to revive it, but then with the happy ending, which I totally agree with you on, he doesn't get the need to do what Umbrellas of Cherbourg did, which is to have it more extremely complicated, and difficult, that ambiguity there, and then La La Land figured that out. Whereas this movie, I agree. If you're watching it for the storyline and these two characters are just man and woman, man and husband and wife, that's basically all they are. And then this is what we're supposed to care about. Like that, it's probably gonna drive most people nuts. And I think when I read the reviewers in the '80s, they're like more character centric in their desires for in their judgments and their standards for a good movie. And then when this one comes out, like, oh, of course this sucks, because these characters are too generic and they do stupid things, or at least certainly the Frederick Forrest character does.
Yeah.
And okay, well, if that's our standard, then I can see how this movie is not going to work for anybody.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of the reason that this movie maybe has some, retrospective love and appreciation is because of the technical flourishes that it has. Where like I'm trying to think, maybe in the 80s that was like the norm, where like movies had like good color and cinematography, so they could focus on the characters. But maybe kind of hearkening back to like our cold open topic, maybe, we're so used to green screened slop and like entirely CGI worlds that seeing something like this is almost like a breath of fresh air. Like, oh my God, like it's all practical. Like there's even a scene where they're like, it's like one of the big marching band like dance numbers where it's like you can see the roof of the set. Like, and I'm just like, oh yeah, there it is. Like you can totally tell. And it didn't bother me at all because I'm just like, but it's so cool. They built, like fronts, they built like storefronts, and they're driving cars around and shit. Like I was just so taken in by the spectacle that I didn't even care that like I could totally see the roof of the sound stage, like just glaringly,
Yeah, and I feel like the movie knows that too, because like even it's not like I've seen older movies and I guess more recent movies in this where like they do matte paintings for the backgrounds, but like you can't tell, they do a good job of like framing it or whatever, or lighting it to where it looks real. But in this I feel like they weren't even necessarily trying to make like all the backdrops look real, like because I think the point is that it looks staged or whatever. That's part of the artistic style. So it's like, it's the which is fun. Like it was cool kind of like seeing the backdrops and being like, that's clearly like 10 feet behind them, the skyline or whatever. But not like taking that as a negative necessarily. Just like, oh, that's part of the style. Just kind of fun.
Well, how much this movie is, I haven't looked into this, Coppola trying to impress his buddies. And I always think they were doing that back then with, well, the Spielberg and Lucas reviving the action serials from their youth. And, then this one is trying to revive a musical. It's a bomb that fails. And I feel like Spielberg's, what's that one, 1941?
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of big flop. But those kinds of things, they're making these giant productions that are harkening back to like childhood, teenage movies or things that they watched, and then trying to make them for their present day. I feel like that's what this one, to some extent, is doing, and the wow factor, if you are a director or production assistant, is there, or someone who works on a movie. But then I'm still confused on why this one as sort of didn't work at the time for wider audiences. Because I don't know enough about the taste of people. Then you think it was the characters? I just don't know.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I did feel like it took like the first, not like significant chunk, but I felt like the first few scenes were especially thin, where it was mostly just like music and people kind of just like walking around. So maybe it didn't help that it like it kind of takes a little bit to get to like actual like scenes where characters are like talking about stuff or whatever, like progressing the story. So I can see people, especially we're talking about the audiences in theaters today, like not having the patience for something like that. Maybe.
Another question I have along that line, you mentioned music, Dan, I forgot to say this, is Tom Waits creates the soundtrack. In a way, to me, one way to watch this is almost as a music video.
Sure,
the soundtrack is the star, and the visuals are kind of complementing the soundtrack. At least there's a great number of scenes, it feels like to me, where you're listening to Tom Waits and Crystal Gayle sing with the visuals there, but their song is the thing to hear in the lyrics. And then of course, is Tom Waits palatable to a wider audience? In 1982 I have no idea, right? I absolutely adore Tom Waits, but was he a hindrance? I don't know.
Yes, he was.
Even the style of music, is that a hindrance? Maybe it
I will say
maybe too old timey even then.
Right, yeah.
I will say near the end, it got pretty grating just hearing him especially like the one part where they're just like, it's like, oh God, I don't remember what he even says, but it's just like, she's got other plans and they don't involve you. Like they just,
with a
just kinda-
guy from Spain or something like
Yeah,
that.
that part. Yeah, I feel like the songs kept like going out of their way to reference it, like this guy's a foreigner, he's not from around here, and you're like, whoa, Tom Waits, what are you doing?
We get it. Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to a lot of this is crazy coincidence. A lot of the early '80s music, which I don't know, like Britpop synth stuff.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, what the trends in modern music this time were had nothing to do with what this movie was doing.
True. Yeah.
So is this again? Does this feel like old timey to the kids that back then? I think maybe it did. I don't know.
It definitely, like, I like the feeling that like some of the music evokes, but I just can't stand his voice. And I thought some of his lyricism was like Randy Newman type stuff. Like there was a line in particular that stuck out to me. It was something like, "You can't solve your problems with a ballpoint pen." So I was like, shut up.
It's funny you mentioned Randy Newman. That made me think of like the Family Guy bit, where it's like, here comes a lady, she walking towards me, left foot, right foot. He's just describing everything that he's seeing like in front of his face. Because like there were definitely a few scenes, like I think it was like one maybe like either while they were fighting or it was like one of those scenes after they're fighting, where I'm just like, can we just kind of have the scene play out without like Tom Waits telling us exactly how we're supposed to feel about what we're seeing? Like I didn't totally hate it, but like near the end I was like, all right, I get it. You know?
Yeah, no, there was moments, like I said, like the vibe of the music I think was working for me. It's just, and I guess I'll say in his defense, if Coppola is trying to evoke like classical music stylings, the lyrics being extremely on the nose is very apropos for musicals, because that's always like, that's one of my big criticisms with musicals in general, is like they're all like that. Like they're all very on the nose. Like, I don't know, the only one that's coming to mind, maybe because I think it's like the only one that we've done on the show, is Cats. You know, literally every song in that is like, this is my name, and this is what I do, this is what I'm like, and this is how I'm singing about me doing this stuff right now, and I am doing it on stage for you. So in that way, it's not if that's the vibe that they were going for, Tom Waits kind of nailed it. Yeah, so it's it again works for the style.
So you do hate his voice then, which is totally fine with me. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I really like Tom Waits. So
yeah.
But when I watch this movie, I think anybody who hates it is just gonna just throw this movie away after 5 minutes. Like, why would you even?
Yeah.
Why would you even indulge yourself? Because his voice is so dominant in this, is just all over the place.
I think honestly, it's like it's a balancing act of like, there's aspects like, namely the Tom Waits and then the characters, but then like if this didn't have the cool technical aspects, I don't know, I would probably be a lot less like, you know, I'd probably be, or what should I say, like I would have finished it for the show. But if it didn't have the cool visuals and cool, you know, like camera trickery and all that, like it had enough to keep me like, you know, invested, I guess. You know.
Same.
So it wasn't like it wasn't the whole package, but you know, I was there for just kind of the what do you want, like the experience of like the audiovisual experience or whatever. I don't know, you know, or at least visual. It's some of the audio.
And can I ask one more question? Frederick Forrest as the lead. I mean, we mentioned him several times, but I look at the guy and go, I have no idea why he was cast here. I'm just lost.
Seems strange too.
I think he's supposed to be the ordinary Joe mechanic.
Sure.
And it's like Umbrellas of Cherbourg, or it's like some old timey musical. He's the working class guy, and then they're going to go out in the rich urban space. Okay, so it's a fish out of water kind of thing. But I just don't. There's zero charisma for me, and the guy only
Yeah.
had. I didn't look up his acting filmographies. I can only remember from bit parts, not from starring roles.
I I
So, what
I
did you think about his his lead here?
I briefly looked him up. Apparently he was in like he collaborated with Coppola in particular because I guess he's in Apocalypse Now and The Conversation as well. Um but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say I hated him, but I was like just I did kind of feel that feeling of like like yeah, like why this guy? Like but also I was like trying to think of like who else could have fit in there instead. Harry Dean Stanton, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard tightrope, I think, to balance a character like that. Like I think with Harry Dean Stanton, I would almost like I would resonate with him too well. Like I would root for him, but I think Frederick Forrest, like his kind of like I don't know if you're watching this like if you're not supposed to be happy that they're together at the end, it's perfect. He's perfectly casted.
Yeah.
He's perfectly casted as like a guy that you don't really like all that much. like I think Frederick Forrest would have had a great career if he had collaborated with like the Coen brothers or like he looks like a Raimi to me. He looked like one of like a Ted Raimi type guy. I think he would have been great in like those movies. But like if you're looking at him as like a, you know, a sincere like lead protagonist ish type guy that you're supposed to like resonate with, I don't know if he necessarily works. But if you're watching it and being like he's kind of the heel, I think he's definitely got one of those faces that you can be like, yeah, it's a punchable face, but I guess I can kind of see it.
That's true. That's a good point. Like I guess my thinking was that he was going for it being like a fully happy ending, but yeah, I guess there's the possibility, there's the chance that it is supposed to be kind of like not wholeheartedly a happy ending, be a happy ending. I don't know. And in that case, yeah, maybe he does work for that like just kind of make you, because you don't really root for him in that last act.
He does some pretty heinous shit to get her back.
Yeah.
Like,
and then like as she's boarding the plane, he sings "You Are My Sunshine." I'm like, get out of here, dude. Like,
that's the best you could come up with. You don't even know her favorite song.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I feel like I always invoke this movie on this show, but all you have to do is do the Graduate ending. It's all you have to do. Where she's like, I made a mistake, and they embrace, and then they're happy, and then their faces slowly change back to like, but did I really make the right choice?
That's what I'm saying.
That's how you get that ambiguous ending.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah. I don't know who else. I'm stuck here just trying to think of who else could have fit that role, but for
like the time period.
But for somebody, for the time period, but also somebody that you could root for, that you could get behind.
Should have put Mark Hamill in there.
Oh,
Mark Hamill,
yeah.
Get the dude from Crime Wave.
Which one, Brian? The lead guy.
The lead guy from Crime Wave.
Reed Birney. Yeah. Funny. Yeah. Maybe.
Or like a Nicolas Cage. I mean, he could have been the nepo baby.
Oh,
but
sure,
like,
yeah, right, yeah, that'd have been fun.
I think he also like avoided working with Francis Ford Coppola because he didn't want to be seen as a Coppola. He wanted to get in on his own merits. But I think a character like Hank, that's kind of this unpredictable mechanic like type guy, I think Cage could have easily done that. Which is funny because I was thinking about Moonstruck while watching this movie. Like, I think the way that like some of the characters kind of acted, like that it's very over the top performance, reminded me of a few scenes. Like, I think mostly like the family scenes from Moonstruck.
Yeah. Man, you're right on Cage. He's like 2 years away from being in stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I think he was in Coppola's Rumblefish or not? That's an
I've heard of that
movie.
one. I'm like,
That's worth
Yeah.
watching too.
yeah,
For weird reasons like this one. But Nick Cage would have been. I think you're right because he's in The Mechanic and Moonstruck, and he's just weird in that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. We need to get the AI, to
Deep
replace.
fake
Like
his
deep
face
faking
onto
it,
him.
That could be cool. Yeah, yeah. Maybe yeah. So that that was gonna be my next questions. If he ever actually did, like, eventually, like, do a if Nicolas Cage did do a movie with Francis, so he did eventually. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he did a couple. I'm looking at his filmography. No, he did 3. I'm looking.
Okay.
There's 3 in the '80s. Peggy Sue got married, the Cotton Club. So yeah,
Oh yeah, Cotton Club.
yeah, he's in a couple.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, what was that other one we did with the show? That was a Coppola movie, wasn't it? It wasn't Francis Ford.
It wasn't Francis Coppola.
It was like some other lesser Coppola.
Or no, that's his name. I was gonna say Nicholas. Yeah, Deadfall.
Deadfall, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Christopher Coppola.
Christopher. Yeah, cousin Eddie. Yeah, that'd have been wild if he just played that character in this.
Yeah. The only other note that I really have is that I don't know. I had to laugh at the beginning when they're doing their anniversary gift exchange.
Well, this is literally my other
And
note.
she gets him like the tickets to Bora Bora.
Uh-huh.
And then he he
lit.
buys out her share or whatever, so like she's on the deed.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is a starter home. This isn't like one we're gonna raise kids in. This is like a shithole. And it's like a 2-story home like near Las Vegas. And it's like that home goes for like $700,000 now.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
I just love that she's like, yeah, this shitty little gross terrible starter home.
That's so funny. That was literally my last note. Was just like, oh wow, you got me tickets to Bora Bora. Cool. Oh, you got me a house. Oh, neat. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, my last note was starter home my ass.
Yeah. Yeah, if we got, did you have anything else you wanted to say about it before? Or we can roll into wrap up scores, or I guess you can, if you want to take it away, you can start us off with it.
Oh, me for the wrap up?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I am so mixed on this movie. Here is my thought on this movie, and I'm working this out in my head. I don't know if you have such a thing where it's like ambient music, and this is like an ambient movie to me, where I can just put it on.
Okay.
It's in the background.
I like
Now,
that.
I like listening to it, okay, so that's a key. But just to have it there and to look at it, I do not care about the story of the characters at all. I'm not even looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way I watch it. I can watch it in just pieces. I don't even care about the whole experience from beginning to end. And that's the way I see it.
Okay.
Now, I don't have many movies I do that with, so maybe that's why I appreciate it. But I
can get that. Yeah, I can
like
vibe with
this
that.
movie.
It's
Okay, yeah.
it's
I don't
chill
have to do it.
lo-fi movie to study to. Like,
Yeah.
You know that's what musicals are supposed to do. Just put them on.
sure,
and
yeah.
Just kind of lose yourself in fun. Now
Mhm.
you're right. This movie, it could be watched ironically or like against itself as some weird comment on American excess and
Sure.
it's Las Vegas and it's fake and superficial. So maybe all the stuff that happens and it's just supposed to be stupid. We're supposed to have negative criticism. I don't know, but anyway, if you just watch it just for the aesthetic glory of it, I think it's at least worth a shot these days. So
Sure.
I don't. What's the rating system here? I forget. It's like it's not thumbs up, but it's kind of.
Oh, this isn't a dud movie, so this is out of 10.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
just
it's a 10. Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I'd probably give it a 7. That's if I don't want to think about the characters, then I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
Um and some people I would say you should pursue it. Other people are like, "Nah, if you're going to get stuck on these characters or this performances or the ending, then forget about it cuz just like we discussed."
Yeah.
But as you can see, there's been many directors been influenced by it enough, so
Yeah.
it's it's worth at least talking about a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I I think there is merit to it, and I think that it's not it's not like the go-to Coppola movie that I would say, obviously, but I think it's another one where you could have examples of like scenes or moments from this and be this is an example of like this guy's like skill as like a filmmaker, because again, there's a lot of really cool moments in this movie, to which I would agree that like it's not for people to like give it a shot. I do think a lot of it will hinge on whether you vibe with the music or not, because like you said, you like the music. Man, if I liked the music, I probably would be right there with you.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and that that did sully my a lot of that experience. So it's not one that I wouldn't just be able to throw it on in the background and enjoy it, because I wouldn't enjoy it. I would have to watch it. That was my favorite part about it, was the visual experience. So with all that said, I'm a little bit lower. I settled on a 4 for this one. So I don't know, I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 5, but I went with a 4. It's got merit. I can't say it's like bad. There's just not, it's just more issues than not with it, I guess, as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually torn between a 6 and a 7. I didn't hate the music. I think Tom Waits got a little bit grating near the end, where I was like, all right, let's move on with it. But I was totally enamored with the coloring and the visuals and like the camera movements and the way that they superimposed things on top of each other. Just like stylistically, I thought this movie was really cool. And the sort of like we're shooting it on these sets, so you kind of look like you're actually in like Las Vegas on the Strip, but then also you're like in a theater production. Like I think there's even a scene with Natasha Kinski where the tightrope scene, I think you can even kind of see, if you look up, you can see like a harness on her. And I was like,
I didn't realize that until now, but yeah.
And I'm like, you could see that as like a one of those like cinema sins, like ding, you can see the harness clearly. But also it's like I feel like that added to the theatrical nature of it, where like kind of like you could see the roof of the set. I forgave it because I was like, it's all part of it. This otherworldly feeling to it. But yeah, with the story with Hank, just like this irredeemable shithead who doesn't deserve the romance. That part kind of stinks. Whatever. But I think kind of like what you said, Josh, the way to take this movie in is, or maybe the way TJ said, is just purely that visual spectacle. The music's fine, but like I think what really like stands out with this movie is just Francis Ford Coppola's complete control over like the set and the lights and the camera and like everything that's like that makes movie making like magic. Is like he's very good at it. And I also think it's like an interesting like kind of historical piece of film as like his follow-up to Apocalypse Now. It's an interesting footnote in history and in his career, and I think what kind of set him on the path of doing maybe some of his not his greatest work, because he had to pay off the debt that this movie caused.
This was the beginning of the road to Twixt.
I think so. Although I was kind of reading like Francis Ford Coppola's Wikipedia page and kind of like reading about him, and he defends Jack.
Oh, Oh yeah, when I brought
Or-
that up last week, like I liked that movie when I was a kid. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I think a
in
lot
forever,
of people like
but...
kind of shit on him for it, but
Okay.
he's like, just because I made Apocalypse Now, everybody thinks that I have to make these types of movies. I think Jack is great, and I'm like, I kind of respect that.
Yeah,
I respect that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But yeah,
stand by your shit.
you know what? I'll go with a 6. I was thinking 7, but I think I'm actually in my heart of hearts. I think I'm at a 6.
Okay.
Neat movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, yeah. Even though it is a lower one for me, I would. It's not one where it was like it's not like a waste of time for, like, I'm glad that I kind of got that one in the pocket, whether it was for like, checking off that, like I said, like piece of film history, or just like there was enough like of interest that I had an okay time. Again, I really like Terry Garr and Raul Julia. They're both like very charming in most things that I've seen them in, really. So they were the highlights of this one for me too.
And if you like Harry Dean Stanton and Natasha Kinski, watch Paris, Texas after this. Little bit of a tonal shift.
Yeah, and about
put
twice.
Dean Stockwell as Hank.
Oh, that'd have been sick. I love Dean. That actually wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think before we break, to our post chat, Josh is gonna leave us now. So right, still doing that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Are we still going? I don't care. I mean, thanks a lot. I do appreciate it. This is great.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're gonna. I think we'll still do our normal post chat stuff,
Okay.
but yeah, we can let you go.
Thanks for bearing this one. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
no.
course.
Jump into anything next time.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I'm glad.
All right,
I'm glad that you finally got one that you could. That for you to. Glad that you finally got to bring one in or whatever.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
of
sign
course.
off. Yeah. See you later.
See ya.
See, as I alluded to in the cold open, I did see a new movie. I saw the TV Glow. This is one.
I saw the TV Glow.
I saw the TV Glow. This is one that I was pretty excited for. The trailer definitely kind of hooked me. It looked weird. I mean, it is an A24 movie, so it definitely had that aesthetic, that sort of trailer where I think they're okay with their trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't just like give it all away.
Yeah, that is nice. Generally.
So this, I think I ended up with like a 3 on Letterboxd. I overall had a pretty good time.
Out of 5.
Out of 5, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I think I wanted more out of it.
Yeah.
I think the movie really the trailers really lean into like the sort of like 90s liminal space, like because the whole premise is that like they watch this TV show as kids, and it's kind of like it's not like Are You Afraid of the Dark, but it's like one of those shows you watch as a kid where it's like you remember it being like really, really freaky or really scary.
Okay.
Kind of like reading Goosebumps almost. Like if I read Night of the Living Dummy now, I would probably be like, this is hokey. This is silly. But like, as a kid reading about like Slappy and like the dummies from the Goosebumps stories, it was terrifying,
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's a couple
I really wanted. There's like a scene in one of the Night of the Living Dummies where it's like imprinted on my mind, where it's like she hears them rustling around in the attic or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's like a second dummy that shows up in one of them.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
It's just it's still, when I think about it, it freaks me out a little bit.
I have one of those from Are You Afraid of Dark? Are You Afraid of the Dark too? Which I may have mentioned on the show before, the Crimson Clown.
That sounds familiar.
It was an episode where I don't remember if it's like on TV or whatever, but he sees this clown, and then it starts like he like goes into his parents' room and then like moves the covers, and it's like the clowns there. But I don't know. I had nightmares for years of that.
Oh, I
fucking
bet.
thing.
Even if you go to YouTube and look up the intro sequence to
Yeah.
Are You Afraid of the Dark, it's like the candle blows out, it's a dark night, and like the merry-go-round wheel or whatever like creaks, like leaves blow on the streets. It's freaky stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the movie, for me, without going like into like spoilers, I wanted more of that out of it because it's made by Jane Schoenburn, who did We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I saw that one, and I feel like I have like, because I did read your review of this, and like based on what you're saying now, that like I basically feel exactly the same way about that one, and yet I'm still interested in checking this one out, even though I have a feeling that I will feel the same way. I don't know. There's something about it where I'm like, it still intrigues me.
And visually, it is
love it.
very cool.
Yeah,
I really like the use of color in this. Again, it very kind of similar to like One from the Heart. It kind of has those like really like prominent greens
colors,
and pinks and like single colors that just bathe the entire scene. And I also understand that it's. I'll just say it's kind of like the People's Joker.
Which
in terms of like the director and what the movie's actually about, kind of
same thing.
One of those things.
We're All Going to the World's Fair too. Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like the real like subtext of this movie. Also, did you look up the cast? Do you know who's in this movie? Don't do it.
Oh, just the lead too. Just the two leads.
Don't. Well, if you read my review, then you probably know. Damn it, I shouldn't have done that.
I think so. Is it Connor?
Connor O'Malley's in this.
Yeah.
And like he plays like we just watched his stand-up special, and he kind of does the same thing where like his character is just like so
awesome.
You will love his performance in this movie. It's
Sweet.
awesome.
Looking forward.
So yeah, I mean, definitely go see it. But it left me wanting a little bit.
Yeah, that's.
But also the bad theater experience.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Dude, oh, there were like a bunch of Zoomer kids like sitting behind us, and they were like fidgeting and rustling, and just like kind of having like normal volume conversations to the point where like I was that guy, and I did go and talk to somebody at the theater to be like, hey, I was like, hey, I really hate to do this. I really hate being this guy. I also didn't like want to walk out of the movie and miss any of it. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I will hold in a piss until I'm in physical pain to finish a movie and not have to like miss any of it.
Yeah.
But there was a moment where I like stood up to like walk out, and like I think I made eye contact with like one of the girls she was just standing up. She wasn't seated. I think she was like walking back and forth like in the aisle with like holding onto her phone. They were just like walking around. But like because like as soon as I stood up, like we kind of made eye contact, and then I walked out, and Chloe was like, as soon as you walked out, they all got pin drop quiet. It's like they knew exactly what I was doing and it's like they knew what they were doing.
Goddamn right.
And they're like, this guy's complaining about us because we're being disruptive. So it's like, okay, you're aware enough that you're being disruptive, but not enough to stop, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, I do get that vibe from like, again, theater that I work at, or I mean also a lot of the times when I go to a movie at that theater, there's not usually that many people there because nobody goes to our theater. But when there are, and when we have people come in like that, it's like it's different than like when I think of I feel like COVID was a big demarcation point for like a few different reasons, but yeah, so like when I think of like pre-COVID, the like sort of close to that. It was 2018 when Hereditary came out, 2017, something like that.
I think you've told me about this before.
I probably have. It was awful. That was like far and above like the worst theater experience I ever had. And I mean, probably still. Where just like talking like on their phones, like talking like normal speaking volume, and then like when people spoke up, like there was somebody like to like my left who turned around and they were like can you guys shut up, after it was like a half hour more into the movie, and like they just like snapped back like, well, like you shut the fuck up, like again like full volume. Where I feel like people back then were more like people who are gonna, you didn't find as many disruptive people, but the disruptive people were like assholes, or like they knew what they were doing and they were owning it. Now it's just like kids who were like socially distanced for a few years and like didn't properly develop at like some key stages in their adolescence.
Very formative 4 years that they just missed out on socialization with.
Yeah, so they just don't know. Like I think, like you said, like they know that they're being disruptive, but they don't know enough to know not to do it, or know that it's like bad, so that like, as opposed to those people at Hereditary, as soon as you do something, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that is the nice thing. Like I've had to like, there have been some really fucking like obnoxious kids where like they'll just be like, I'll just go in there and be like, okay guys, you know, if I have to come back in here again, you guys are out. And it's like, don't have to worry about it anymore. They clam right up, which is nice, because if I did have to deal with people like the Hereditary girls, like as an employee now, oh, I'd be terrifying. They would walk all over me.
They're like, you have no riz.
Yeah.
It's a skibbity loser, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Anything but that.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I also watched a movie, and again, as I said, I was the only one in the theater. I saw it with I saw it with my brother. So we were the only ones in there. But I saw Furiosa, the new Mad Max movie. It's pretty good. I only watched Fury Road once in theaters, and I kind of have been wanting to go back to it. I just remember just not super vibing with it. I think I it was just like, I didn't dislike it, but I was not like, you know, over the moon about it like it seemed like everyone else was. I don't know what it was. I just think something about it just didn't work for me. And this one I also wasn't like, you know, 10 out of 10, like a million stars or whatever, but I thought it was pretty solid. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot more story heavy than Fury Road, where from what I like, Fury Road, I feel like that's basically just a 2-hour car chase pretty much.
We recently, weirdly enough, we watched Fury Road on the 27th of May.
Mm-hmm.
I put my movie tickets, like if I've seen a movie, I'll put my movie ticket like inside the Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
I opened up the Blu-ray of Fury Road. The last time I saw it was May 27th, 2015.
Oh, wow.
So like exactly 9 years to the day, I watched Fury Road again. And
crazy.
Yeah, I think Max has maybe like less than 100 lines in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is just like high octane pretty much right from the get-go.
Yeah. And I would say there's it's not the only action scene, but there's like one action scene that felt very Fury Roady, where they're, you know, driving and there's like multiple cars and people jumping from car to car and like people up on like the big like pole vault things. Which is what I, again, recall like Fury Road like primarily being. There's one kind of like centerpiece with that where it's like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes of that like crazy car action. Everything else is a little more contained, or just not quite as bombastic. But I was like really into that scene, and I was like okay, yeah, how am I like enjoying this so much, but I don't remember like Fury Road, like maybe it was just too much of a good thing or whatever. But seeing that scene and thinking of Fury Road, I was like, maybe I need to give that one another watch or something. Because that's one kind of like in a different way, but kind of like No Country for Old Men, where I am fully of the mind that where I'm like, I may have just not been in the right mindset when I watched it, and like I'll fully give those ones, you know, a fair shot, a fair rewatch when, I don't know, whenever the time feels right or whatever. Whereas most of the time, I'm pretty, I'd say like 9 times out of 10, I watch a movie and I'm like, no, I'm right. My opinion won't change on this. But there's some once in a while where I'm like, yeah, maybe I didn't. Maybe I wasn't, just wasn't in the right mood or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, up until the other day, that was the one time I saw Fury Road. Like, I hadn't seen it again since I saw it in theaters. And yeah, watching it now, I loved it. It rocks. It's just, again, it is mostly just pure spectacle, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, some of the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And I really like Nicholas Hoult in that. I love Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
The People Eater, that dude is in Furiosa, I saw. But I love the part.
So is Immortan Joe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not the same actor, because I think that guy died. But
he did.
But
he died.
Yeah.
But I love the part in Fury Road after like the People Eater gets killed, where Max just grabs his like bloated fat foot and puts it on the gas pedal, and that's how he like goes flying through. It's just it's great.
All those guys are back. There was some stuff where like I had to ask my brother afterwards, like, was that person in that, or were these guys in there? Because there were some characters I thought they were setting up where like obviously I remembered the People Eater and Immortan Joe just because they're such like distinct looking characters. But there were some where I was like, are they in it? And I thought they were just setting them up to be, you know, characters to die in this one, but then they lived, and I'm like, okay, I guess they did live. But you get a lot more into like the geopolitical structure of the wasteland and stuff, like the different strongholds or whatever. Like there's the Citadel, Gastown, and the Bullet Farm are like the 3 I guess locations in this, and like how their like economy works with one another is really fun. It's a really fun world with a lot of really fun characters. Chris Hemsworth is so much fun as Dementus. Like, he's so much fun. It's so funny when there's somebody who's like is Australian, and like I know that he's Australian, but I've never seen him be Australian in a movie, and he is like the most Australian he could ever be in this movie. And I think he like pitches up his voice a little bit in this too, so he's just very, very cartoony, crazy as the bad guy. I guess much like Max and Fury Road, I really don't. I think Furiosa has a couple dozen lines in this. She does not talk that much.
Yeah. It's mostly just set pieces and scenery and
So
I do want to start watching the other ones, because I have the Road Warrior, and I have the original. Or is the original Mad Max just called the Road Warrior?
No, that's the second one. The original one is just called Mad Max.
Okay, so I have Mad Max and I have the Road Warrior.
Okay.
And then I don't have the Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome, yeah.
But I do want to check out the originals, because I feel like it's kind of rare to have the same director do all of them, because usually,
especially over such a long time span.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually it's like, you know, you think of other popular franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, where it's like the original one is like iconic, It's like, John Carpenter he did Halloween, and then there's like a bunch of other ones. Some of them are okay, some of them are bad, but it's in someone else's hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like with the Mad Max movies, it's George Miller like the entire time. They are all, every single spin-off is his.
Yeah.
It's like that's part of why I'm curious to check him out, because if it was
Yeah.
just like he did the first one and then some other dickhead did the other ones, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But knowing that it's George Miller behind every single one of them, that's like incentivizing me to check them all out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been wanting to rewatch those too. I think I probably last watched them in high school. From what I remember liking the first one, really liking the second one, and then Beyond Thunderdome was like okay. I think that's my general feel. But I remember, like, I really especially want to watch the first two again. The first one especially is like, it's I remember that one being like extremely simple in its plot, and not quite just like the high octane just car chase the entire time, but it is just not much goes on, but it's still like surprisingly entertaining.
Yeah.
And then the Road Warrior gets a lot more bombastic with like the action and the shit that goes on in that one. But yeah, Furious is another a good one. I liked it. It was cool. And
too bad it tanked at the box office.
yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, that is a bummer. That's one that like a lot of the movies that come out, and you're like, yeah, those, whatever, I don't like care, but like something like that's like from, again, like a guy who's been doing it for so long and like doing it for real. It's not just like a CGI like bullshit fest.
Yeah.
It's an original, it's a sequel, but it's like his original idea, like from that guy and stuff. It's like it'd be nice if that one did well, but it's just kind of.
And also, like, Fury Road is so beloved. I thought that like people would be,
I did too,
out in droves to see this.
I know, like I would like, part of me is like, is it because it's Furiosa and it's not Max, and are there people who don't know? Because I would not put it past some people to not see the subtitle, like a Mad Max saga or whatever, and just be like, Furiosa, I don't know what that is. It looks like Mad Max, but it's called Furiosa. Wasn't that the name of that character in Mad Max? I don't know.
Yeah. And honestly, I wish they could have just called it Furiosa and left it at that. But I hate that like all these movies have to be a saga, or like the Knives Out movies, like it has to be like a Knives Out mystery, or because like they're casting the third one right now, and it's like Rian Johnson just can't make a movie that has Benoit Blanc in it. They're like, no, we have to brand it as a Knives Out mystery, otherwise people are too stupid to know what it is, so they have to call it a Mad Max saga, or from the Book of Saw. That's like the most egregious one that I hate. It makes me mad every time I think about it.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's people are stupid, and they do need that, like, it just like shoved in their face. Even with like a movie with franchise with such a distinctive like look and style as that, people would still be like, I'm not sure. So with that, the movies are thriving. It's a great time to be a movie fan.
Yep.
Anyways, we got another movie next episode, and we will maybe have Josh on again. We'll see, maybe. But this is just another normal. This is our first normal poll in maybe not a whole long while, but a little while. maybe just a few. Maybe it just feels that way since we're doing every other week now. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Man, I kind of some of these I kind of scribble, but I think it's 1997. Directed by Paul Verhoeven. We're gonna watch Starship Troopers. That'd be fun.
Yes. This one has been on my list to watch for a long time. Never seen it. I'm so stoked.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, this will be a fun one to revisit. I watched this a lot when I was a kid, and I probably shouldn't have. I think I did watch the like TV edited version, so I don't think I saw like the boobies or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it like didn't censor a lot of the violence because a lot of it is like the aliens, so it's green blood, so it's not.
It's like if it's cartoonish enough that it's like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of Verhoeven, is Showgirls in the cup?
Good question.
Because that's one that I know is like notorious and people are very divided on, and some people have like reevaluated it and love it, and some people are like, no, this is terrible. I'm very curious about Showgirls.
Now that we give ourselves more time between the episodes, like I'm more inclined to like just suggest like do a double feature or something like that. Do you want to do a double feature?
Starship Troopers and Showgirls?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Who gives a shit? Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Cool. Hell yeah. Let's do it. There we go. I think that's from like 94, 95, also by Paul Verhoeven. Yeah, I haven't ever seen that one, but it's definitely a curiosity. So yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled for Starship Troopers or Showgirls, watch them before next week's next episode. That will come in some week after this one. These episodes come out Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST. I'm messed up my thing, so I'm like tripling over the outro. On YouTube, possibly Twitch, depending on how I'm feeling, in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I'm just a podcast host, and I'm gonna say goodbye now. And I also have a co-host with me, but first I should say that I'm TJ, and with me as always.
As always, man, I can't remember any memorable quotes from this movie. Oh, no. What's that one? You know what they say about I'm just a girl, a circus girl, and you know, this is what happens when you get rid of a circus girl. She disappears like spit on a griddle.
Just close your eyes. And then we cut. Yeah.
Yeah.